Hi, my name is Kylie Maida, and I will be talking about the existence of emergency management theory. So, emergency management theory refers to the processes and principles involved with managing resources and humanitarian responsibilities during times of disaster. Emergency management in general just seeks to promote safer, less vulnerable communities and provide them with the capacity to cope with hazards and disasters should they occur. But it hasn't always existed, at least not the way that we have it today. This is because the general field of emergency management has evolved a great deal since its beginnings, which can be traced back to the 1950s. At this time, it was largely civil defense activities during wartime. So, the civil defense, as it was called back then, mostly revolved around war activities. For example, civilians were preparing for nuclear attacks, until decades later when emergency management began to resemble more modern emergency management, something that we would recognize now. And what I mean by that is it began to revolve more around the management of natural disasters such as hurricanes, earthquakes, and the like. Thus, emergency management theory also began to evolve. So, what we call emergency management theory actually took roots in April of 1979 with the establishment of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA. And some scholars define emergency management theory as the greater, larger body of knowledge in the emergency management discipline, although the definition of emergency management theory is quite contested. And what I mean to say by that is that maybe scholars won't all agree on one larger system of knowledge on the discipline of emergency management, because some opinions will certainly differ in varying aspects of the discipline, but scholars will agree that the foundations of emergency management theory exist in the uncontested components of which the relatively new discipline has been built upon. So, these components that make up what is now called emergency management theory consist of things like general definitions, concepts, and principles of emergency management. For years, Comprehensive Emergency Management, or CEM, has organized emergency management functions into four simplified phases of disaster and obviously subsequent disaster management to make the discipline easier to understand and to work within. And these phases are mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. But comprehensive emergency management, or CEM, has been less than successful in explaining and grasping things like the political, economic, and cultural aspects of disasters, for example. So then what happens is that other opinions and theories are offered so as to correct this weakness in the traditional theory proposed by CEM. Essentially, what this demonstrates and why I brought it up is that yes, a discipline can have a single theory that encompasses the entire discipline, but it's actually much more beneficial to have many theories contributing to the discipline because that allows for a more wider understanding of how emergency management phenomena actually occurs. But when it comes to developing emergency management theory, there are many challenges associated with it. Some of the issues involved with developing emergency management theory include forming a consensus on the definition of things like the terms for disaster, emergency management. There isn't great or concrete agreement on what these terms actually mean, and so you need to come to a consensus on what these terms mean in order to address them. Additionally, there has been disagreement on which hazards to focus on within the discipline, and how should we prioritize them. Also, which phases are the most important? How should we prioritize those phases? Which actors should be included in the processes of emergency management? Which other disciplines should contribute knowledge to emergency management? And these are only a few of the questions and concerns that are involved with developing emergency management theory. So, as you can imagine, scholars and other knowledge contributors will have their own opinions on how to address each of these challenges individually as well. So, really, the development of a more general and agreed upon theory in this discipline of emergency management will be a very difficult task. But just as emergency management evolves, emergency management theory must also evolve, and it will likely do so with contributions from many minds and from many other areas of knowledge. Thank you.